21st of March 2017, and we're excited to have Charles from Noble Gold on. Charles, you know a lot more about the economy than I do, and we've seen bond yields are flat. We've seen flooding all over the world. This is Peru we're looking at. Oh my God, it's just wiped out their crops. We've got Deutsche Bank. Yeah, it's horrible. In the negative, we've got, for the first time in history, whole wheat flour production down in 2016. GMOs, spraying, whatever. We've got the 5-year Treasury yield just flat as a pancake. And we've got the Russian ATM spitting out cash left and right. I mean, you go to the ATM with your little Visa card, and it just starts spitting out rubles. Now, okay, it takes about 600 rubles to buy a cup of coffee in Russia. But and each refill is another 600 rubles. Well, yeah, 5 to 600. So what on earth is going on? I mean, this bond yield, the blue chip consensus on the bond yield is 2%. It's just flat as a pancake. And yet, even though the computers go bad, because here we're seeing the Russian computers, Svetbank, the biggest bank in Russia, going completely nutty cakes with cash. So we all know that if you have money in the stock market, it's absolutely safe, right? Because stocks, computers don't go haywire. And yet, you and I know that silver and gold and food are the only things that have lasted the last 4,000 years. And we're going to have some changes here. So what do you see coming in terms of the economy?
Great question. Back to the computers and how they don't do anything wrong. You look at that a couple years ago, we had the flash crash that someone supposedly made a mistake and the computer put in an extra zero. So we know they make mistakes. Really when we're looking at this economy, we're looking at a few things here, and there's certain things to take note of. The stock market's at an all-time high. These values here are just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all AI driven. And what happens when the AI computer gets a virus?
Absolutely. Or is it a virus at all, or is it a plant? That's the next question that'll be asked. But typically that question doesn't get asked until the damage is done.
Okay.
So we want to protect ourselves before that. And you have to realize, too, you look at that market.
Right.
With the Dow around 21,000 and some of the indicators that we can talk about here in a minute, don't be surprised to see that get pulled back in half. Let's go down to the Dow at 11,000, which effectively would remove about $50 trillion from the world market, just erased.
So if you had an IRA of 250,000 and it goes down in half, you now have an IRA of 125,000.
Correct.
So now
here's the worst part about that, though. For it to get back to the 250 that you started with, and people realize this after 2008, the market has to double again just to break even.
Right.
Never mind that lost time, because the most effective thing for your IRA is time vested.
Right.
You lose a decade of time. You get a decade of no return from that 250 that you started with. That's the envy of your return. You can't make that time back up again.
No, you can't. Not when you're 55 or 60 and you're preparing to retire and you thought you had a $250,000 IRA and you did not invest in something physical. And what I like about what you do, Charles, is when you invest, and this is unlike a lot of companies, when you do an IRA with your company, you have the physical gold and the physical silver there. People can go down and touch it or even take it with them. But it's in a vault, and there's so much fake gold and silver sold right now. That's what we've been saving in, silver and gold, because we know that 4,000 years ago, people were still trading in silver and gold. And that little silver coin we had, these little itty-bitty things of silver that we're buying, you laugh at it. Here's an Israeli coin that's 1 ounce. It's only 80% silver. But you know what? I only paid $16 for it. However, silver is going for $22 an ounce on eBay, and you have it for spot price, which I think is 17 something this morning.
Yeah, and you can see, when you're going on the eBays and things like that, not only do you increase your risk of getting something that's not legitimate,
Mm-hmm.
you're paying more for it.
We bought.
We deal in volume. We deal in millions of dollars metals daily. So we have the best prices available out there, okay? And with us, it goes through our hands. We're validating what you're getting. It goes to your depository. They're validating what you're getting as well. Because they say, I'm going to hold this for you and I'm going to secure it for you. They're responsible when you go to take it out for it being legitimate. So you know they're checking it very well because they're on the hook if it weren't.
Well, they're insured too, and if your home gets robbed, you don't have to worry about losing your IRA.
Exactly.
So we have, I don't know, a little bit of silver and a whole lot of food and a little bit of gold, but that little bit of silver and that little bit of gold that takes up almost no space, every time, there it is, that little ounce of silver is worth a 50-pound bag of rice today, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. So if I have an IRA made up of physical silver, and say I have 100,000, that's a lot of rice I can buy in hard times. And if the market goes down, big deal.
It's very true. And you know what? You're better off storing that silver than you are trying to store that rice.
Yeah, rice. It takes up.
Much harder to store that rice.
I'm telling you, food storage. We do food stuff for people. We show how to do the food, and I'm telling you, storing a year's worth of food is a lot of space.
It's a lot of space. You should do it, but it's a lot of space.
Something that isn't well known that will affect all our world markets within the next 12 months is back in 1986. It was discovered by Lord Lyons, who appoints the new kings. James Erskine killed King James, and King James supposedly gave England and America to the Pope. Well, it wasn't King James, it was James Erskine, which means all of the financial laws in America are defunct after that was found out, which means, for you and I, huge financial changes in the future. And this is the year that it will be implemented. So if there are huge financial changes, why would you be invested in a company on the stock market where the stock's way overvalued?
That is a great question. If you look, and the way the stock market is supposed to work theoretically is that you take a company, they produce a good, they sell it, they make money.
Right.
The amount of money they make determines the price of the stock.
Right.
You take that product you've made such and such profit divided by the amount of shareholders in the company. And because we have a very generous means of measuring success, they'll give it a multiple of where it should be trading based on your profits.
Right.
The problem we have now is that multiple is so great because the amount of sales that are happening aren't there. It's bad numbers, and we see that with the GDP, the gross domestic product of America. We have a scenario where, like right now, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York,
Right.
it says the first quarter GDP growth should be around 3.1%. And then you turn around, and I was, I monitor this on a regular basis. So I was looking at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta.
Right.
And on the 13th of March, they had it at 1.3% for the GDP growth effort. Is that a typo error? Do they just mix up their numbers? Well, what's going on here? Why such a disparity?
Well,
As I was researching, they even updated and made it 0.9%. So that's a huge disparity between those two numbers.
yeah,
That's
3.1 to
scary.
0.9. That's 3% to 1%. That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, who's right?
Well, I'll tell you who's right. We walked into a mall 2 days ago. We did a video on it. There's no sense showing the video. Everybody across America goes into a mall and realizes that you go through the top floor of Nordstrom's and there's two people there. You go to the top floor of Macy's and there's 2 customers and 4 employees. Now, this has been going on now for quite a while, but I've never seen it so empty. We went into the top of I think it was Penny's, and you could roll a bowling ball down the middle of the store. I mean, it was sad. The Penny's and Sears, they're sad. What's happening? Nobody's going in, and there's no more money. you can dry your pair of pants and make it last 2 years instead of a year. You just hand dry it. People are hurting everywhere. And
It's very, very true. Very true.
ABC Timber Company. It might be worth $1 billion, so they sell $1 billion of stocks and bonds, right? Well, when the price of timber goes from 350,000 board feet to 150,000 board feet, that $1 billion is now worth about, 400 million, but the stock keeps going up. So now you've got these stocks. You might have $2 billion worth of stocks based on and I've been in forestry. I've watched the timber companies for many years. You might have $2 billion of stocks and bonds based on $400 million of timber. That just doesn't cut it. The Japanese demand for old growth timber at $1,000 for 1,000 board feet is done. We're talking 150 to 200, and we're basing the stocks on $500 to $600 for 1,000 board feet, which is 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 inch of timber. But basically, the value of the stocks now have way exceeded the value just of the timber companies, and they were the rock. Timber and mining companies were the rock of the stock market for so many years, and they're so overvalued now. So what happens when we have a revaluation? I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to have it in physical gold and silver? You can't pay your rent with a can of food. Okay, just get that off your chest. You cannot pay rent and property taxes with a can of food. You can eat with it, but you can't pay your rent and property taxes. So you go into the county assessor and say, well, my property taxes are $300 this month. Can I give you 300 cans of beans? That doesn't work.
Doesn't work. It would be good if it did, but it doesn't.
So how do we... It is...
You brought up a really good point when you were talking about the timber company. And one of the things I think a lot of people misunderstand and miss, it's been talked about, the whole quantitative easing, but a lot of people don't realize where that fits into the scenario. When you had that reduction of their sales, which should have revalued the company, and this is market-wide, this is not just the timber company, this is almost every company out there on the stock market. Instead of those prices coming down, what they went and did was the United States released all the quantitative easing money, okay, and as an example, before we saw this market turn in 2008, the Federal Reserve debt went from just what they issued out, not their accumulated debt, but in the quantitative easing, from $700 billion to $4.7 trillion. Okay.
Holy
and
cow!
Went directly into the stock market. That's why those prices haven't come down. Okay. That's a horrible thing, but if you're in the stock market, you think, oh, that's great. But here's where that becomes a problem. The zero interest rate days are done.
Yeah.
Fed Chairman Janet Yellen said she's going to raise interest rates. They're probably going to do 2 more this year.
Well, that's going to hit the stocks hard.
Short-term money supply costs go up, and it comes to parity with long-term costs. You have, and you mentioned it, it's that yield curve disappears. You have no yield curve left on the bond market. And that is always a sign of the next recession. Tried and true. You see that happen? It's the sign that the next recession is coming. You're going to see it tumble in the stock market.
I don't know if we ever got out of the last recession. Here's the U.S. debt clock. Silver should be at $870 an ounce. I think gold is $5,000 or $6,000 an ounce.
Right.
It'll drive you nuts watching this. The bottom line is, we're in for a huge correction here, and we're in for huge financial changes. And if you've got $1,000 in silver and it goes from $17 an ounce to $170 an ounce, that 1,000 turns into 10,000. So in times of economic change, gold and silver have always been there. You'll always...
And what I think people misunderstand with that too is not only does it go up in value, you've also protected yourself from the loss as well. When you figure that in there, what you've done is tremendous for your ability to take care of yourself and your family.
Well, if...
And to still consider being able to retire.
What's a good percentage? Say I had $250,000 in in stocks. What is a good percentage for me, based on what I know about the stock market and what I've seen in my 59 years? I wouldn't put very much in the stock market, but for the average person, just a guess, what would you put in physical metal? I would do all of it, but that's just me because of where I have been in life. Where, there's always the possibility that you get somebody in the Feds mad and they take away everything you own. That happened to me. But if you have silver and gold buried in the backyard, guess what? They can't touch it.
Sure. Ratios are always a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
But common sense says be between 20 and 30%.
Okay.
Diversity.
So if I had...
Now, we're in uncommon times, so a lot of people that talk to me say they want to do more. And I get it and I understand. You got to do what's right for you.
Right.
Do less. But a good parameter would be between 20 and 30%.
Well, the other thing is you get older. When you're younger, you want a lot of risk. You say, okay, I like this Pioneer or Templeton stock. It's high risk. It did really well last year. I'll put my money into it. Because you're young and you want it. But when you're older, you want that money. You turn 50 to 55, you start thinking, well, I want that $250,000 to be there when I hit 62. Magic age of Social Security. So all of a sudden you think, well, silver's been about $15 an ounce for a long time, 17, 18. If the economy dumps, it's probably going to be worth more. And so people started investing in bonds. But we had something called a nuclear reactor, whoops. And the Department of Energy under the Department of Defense stole $8.9 billion, and everybody with bonds and whoops had their money stolen. The Department of Defense rebuilt the reactors, and they're now in full, 3 of the 5 are in full operation. People never got their money back. So you invest in a bond, you invest in a stock, you invest in risk. There's always risk.
Absolutely.
And so...
if there's any kind of a return, there's a risk. There is no risk-free investment. It just doesn't happen.
No. But you would think that a Washington State bond backed by the Department of Energy would be good, but they seized it. So you can't even invest in nuclear energy or coal or oil without huge risk. We used to think that was safe, but you know what? 2 things have been around for 4,000 years, gold and silver.
Very true. And when you consider that all of those bonds are backed by the dollar, where is your risk? What used to be a risk-free investment, or as close to risk-free as you could get, became risky because it's based on the dollar. So we added a new issue to the mix. Before, when we were on a gold standard, the dollar was safe.
Right.
So it was risk-free to have that bond. It may go down, but it wouldn't become zero. But now that we've entered this fiat currency test that we've been doing, this grand experiment, we've made something that was typically risk-free a risky item.
Well, we had a heck of a time 2 years ago cashing in some very old savings bonds. Very hard time. So if you bought some savings bonds 50, 60 years ago, or they're your parents', good luck cashing them in now. I mean,
right.
it was, oh my God. But if I walk in with a gold coin, guess what? It's gold.
Gold. You're always good.
So we can call you at 888-596-7916.
Correct.
Or we could just, there's a contact. There's a whole email contact where you're in Pasadena, 888-596-7916, and you can leave your name, your email, your phone, a message. You can contact you on Facebook. Or you can do what a lot of people do, and that is just have the silver delivered at home and then just put it in the back of your shop where all the spiders are. Better than safe. I have a couple of rolls of coins.
Make them guard your metals.
Yeah, I have a few rolls of the coins way back in the back, and I don't even know if I'd want to get them because of the spiders. You'd have to bug bomb my shop before I went and got them. Charles, any final words? We're coming to the end here, and I really appreciate your time. I mean, we have the average person who watches my channel has an income of over $100,000, and this is extremely important to them. So, and I would love to have you on about every month because as we begin to unwind in April and we start to see things happen, like huge riots in Paris right now, they're tracking a nuclear weapon headed to Romania today. It's an old U.S. I mean, as things begin to change, I would love to have you on because of your opinion about what's going on.
We can do that. We'll keep your viewers informed.
Any final words?
And yeah, I think if you've been thinking about metals, you have a question, call us. Get a hold of us. Contact us. Lots of ways. There's Facebook. There's the email. There's lots of ways to get in touch with us and find out for yourself. That's the best way. Ask the question that's on your mind, because knowledge is power. Find out if it's right for you.
That's
the most important thing you can do.
That's absolutely true. If the stock market collapses, we have gold, silver, and food. Not a lot of food, but gold and silver. Not a lot, but at least a year's worth of rent. So, and power and electricity and all that. And I'm telling you, to have that silver in a little bucket in the backyard buried makes you feel so much better. Because
that peace of mind is priceless.
Oh my God, you've got the food and silver to pay for rent and utilities for an entire year. So that peace of mind is priceless. Charles, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate. Actually, the people who watch this channel will appreciate what you're saying right now.
I hope so. We do what we do. It's not just a business for us. This is more like a calling for us, and those of your listeners and viewers that have called us can attest to that. We do this because we see the need and we enjoy helping people. That's always going to be something that's dear to us. So it's our pleasure to be able to help.
Well, your time has come. Food production for the first time since 1621 has fallen. Never before in American history has food production fallen. It's true. It has fallen thanks to 30 years of socialism. And we're going to start seeing things change very rapidly. And I want to appreciate your time. I mean, imagine the crop production in Peru. They're knee-deep to waist-deep in water. And they're going to be pulling on whatever little wheat we're producing here in this country. So, Charles, I want to thank you for coming on. This was a fabulous interview. We're gonna say goodbye to the audience now, to the smartest, the most intelligent, the most active audience in the world. Thank you, folks, and good night.